I have been really grappling with Dr. Inoue's work a lot, and dimension-based grading is something he writes about, and I have seen his examples, and I've worked with teachers and tried to think through what exactly does this look like in practice. So let's take a look at what it could look like in practice.
Is something I used Dr. Inoue's work for, and then kind of adapted it into how I might use it with high school students or middle school students, I think. And one thing teachers have said is they think it would be helpful to have kind of a student version that is still a little checklisty, like a typical standards rubric. And then I also think that, we need those embedded questions that Dr. Inoue talks about in here. So here is the kind of writer or speaker facing version. I say both because this could be something you use for a written piece of work, or when someone is speaking, you're giving them feedback on a presentation or something. And so this, I switched it to like kind of thesis or claim, because this is something we typically assess in either an ELA, social studies, kind of humanities role. So I used a lot of Dr. Inoue's language and then added in a bit more, kind of try to simplify language or bold language where I could. So one, kind of the reader understands it. Again, this is kind of a checklist for the speaker or the author to kind of be like, okay, right, I need to make sure it's understandable. I have one thesis that doesn't drift away, details that support it, right? My evidence from reliable cited sources. Again, using definitely social studies language here. But then these are Dr. Inoue's, reader believes my idea is possible. I added kind of like makes sense. Reader believes I care about the topic. And I really want my students to make interesting connections. So in a piece of writing or speaking that is related to the claim evidence reasoning standards, I want them, for reasoning or analysis, to make interesting connections. So I added that here. And I also think this is where we leverage valuable prior knowledge, that is lived experience and other forms of knowledge that we don't typically value in education, to kind of push back against that dominant narrative that like students don't have prior knowledge, which is just untrue. And take language risks, which was from Dr. Inoue, and I love that. So then after I kind of go through, I use this ideally to prepare myself to make sure that it's like a draft that's ready for public consumption. And then after I get my feedback from peers, including the teacher, then I might go ahead and answer these 3 questions, which is kind of based in my conversation with Dr. Inoue, what you might look for. So how do you think you're doing? What's maybe one comment that stuck out to you that helps you understand how you're doing, and what will you do next? Now, the reader or listener facing version of this is also, I think, a checklist that is akin to like a single point rubric, check or not check. And then these are the questions that Dr. Inoue kind of talks about, is like what was important, what was confusing, and why, and the why being really, really important. So I bolded that. Because we want to make sure we interrogate the kind of dominance present, or the lived experience, or cultural assets that are valued or not valued, and in the reader-writer interplay here. So that space is present. And then I also made a second version of this where it's just kind of like piece by piece for the student who needs it kind of chunked up. Like, I understand it, yes or no, like why did I understand it, right? And kind of being able to prompt them why for each specific part.
Podcast episodes that relate to this content of dimension-based grading and Dr. Inoue's work. And there's also a YouTube short from October that you could check out, as well as another one on a slightly different topic, also Dr. Inoue's work, that just is coming out in the last month or so. All right, check it out. Let me know if this feels helpful. What other questions do you have about how to use it in practice? What additions would you make or changes would you make? Feel free to grab this template and edit to your heart's content to use with your students. We'll drop it in the description.